Welcome to a new podcast where you learn English by listening to native speakers and also learn powerful life lessons from great books.
We're really happy to have you with us today.
Yeah, we are. And if you find our deep dives helpful, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe.
It really makes a difference. It helps us keep making these.
It truly does. Your engagement is what keeps us going.
So what are we diving into today?
Today, we're taking a deep dive into a very, very well-known story, Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka.
Ah, Kafka. Yes,
A classic.
definitely. It's a story that has made, well, a lot of people think. And our mission today is to understand the main story and the ideas within it using simple English.
Exactly. We want to make this significant work understandable and, thought-provoking for everyone, especially if English isn't your first language.
Right, so let's get straight into it. The story begins with something truly unbelievable.
Understatement of the century, maybe?
Maybe. The main character, Gregor Samsa, wakes up one morning and discovers that he has turned into, well, the book describes it as a horrible vermin, like a giant insect. A beetle, maybe? It's deliberately a bit vague, isn't
That
it?
is, but definitely monstrous. And can you even imagine waking up like that?
No. Just, no.
It happened suddenly, too. Poof. No explanation given at all.
It's a shocking way to start, isn't it? There's no, gradual change, no dream he wakes up from, just boom, this immediate, impossible reality.
Yeah, it forces us right away to think about how quickly our lives can just flip upside down.
In really unexpected and dramatic ways. Okay, so what's his state?
Physically.
Okay, so Gregor's lying there in his bed, and somehow he knows he's not breathing.
Right, this is real.
He's on his hard back, and you can see his own belly. It's brown, segmented, kind of like arched sections.
Vivid.
And his legs, oh man, so many of them, just thin and waving around, totally helpless. His first thought is basically, what's happened to me?
That detailed physical description really paints a picture, doesn't it? His new sort of grotesque form.
Totally. It emphasizes his complete powerlessness in this new body. Right. Makes you think about how much we rely on our physical selves to just interact with the world. What happens when that's suddenly gone?
Exactly. So he tries to move, but this new body, it just won't do what he wants. He's stuck on his back.
But he recognizes his room.
Yeah, he's in his familiar room. It's small, but it's his space.
Yeah.
And we get these little glimpses into his old life.
Like what?
Well, there are textile samples on his table. Reminds us he's a traveling salesman.
Okay, his job.
And there's this picture he framed. A lady in furs. He seems to like it.
Interesting. These details kind of ground us in his previous human life, right? Makes the contrast with now even more intense.
Yeah. And that picture, maybe it hints at, I don't know, a longing for something more, something beautiful in his otherwise kind of dull room.
Could be. Makes you wonder what his dreams were before this.
He tries again and again to get out of bed, try to roll onto his side.
But he can't.
Nope. He sends it rolling back onto his back. The book says he tries like 100 times. It's so frustrating for him.
I can only imagine.
And he starts to feel this weird new pain in his side. This struggle just highlights how much our bodies dictate everything.
Absolutely. This initial struggle, it shows his immediate inability to do even the simplest things. It's the first real consequence of his change.
Yeah. Makes you think how much independence we take for granted.
Until something happens, yeah.
So as he's lying there, totally stuck, his mind starts racing. He thinks about his job.
The traveling salesman gig.
Right. And it's clear it's a difficult job for him. Always moving, worrying about trains, bad food, never really connecting with people.
He's pretty isolating.
He even thinks, just for a second, he wishes it could all go to hell.
Wow. So he was already pretty unhappy before the transformation.
Seems like it. The constant travel, the lack of connection, wore him down. Makes you wonder how many people feel trapped like that, in jobs they hate.
A lot, probably. But there's more to it, isn't there? Why doesn't he just quit?
Right. His thoughts turn to his parents. He wants to quit, badly, but he feels he can't.
Well,
because his parents owe his boss a lot of money. There's a big debt.
oh, okay. So he's working to pay that off.
Exactly. He has this hope, this plan, that in maybe 5 or 6 years, he'll have paid it off. And then he can make a big change.
That's really sad, knowing what's just happened to him. That hope was keeping him going.
It adds this layer of tragedy, doesn't it? He was looking forward to a future where he was free, and now, well, that future's impossible.
Makes you think about how we postpone happiness for later and how fragile those plans can be.
So the morning routine starts outside his locked door. It's 6:45. His mother calls him.
Worried he'll miss his train for work, right? The salesman routine.
Exactly. He tries to answer her, but his voice, it's completely changed.
Whoa.
It's this like painful, uncontrollable squeaking sound. He thinks he can form words, but there's this weird echo. It's just noise.
Oh, wow. So he can't even communicate properly?
Nope. That's a huge shock for him.
Yeah.
His isolation starts right there, really.
That barrier is immediate and, well, devastating. We rely so much on language.
He manages to squeak out something like, "Yes, mother. Yes, thank you. I'm getting up now."
And she buys it.
Surprisingly, yeah. She seems satisfied and goes away. But that weird voice, it definitely alerts everyone else that something is seriously wrong.
So the father and sister get involved.
Yep. His father starts knocking. Then his sister, Greet, pleads with him to open the door. They can sense something's very off.
Even if they have no idea what, you'd be worried if someone sounded totally different and wouldn't open up.
For sure. But Gregor, he has absolutely no intention of opening that door. Not like this.
He's still trying to process, maybe hoping it'll go away.
Maybe. He's thinking about just getting up calmly, getting dressed, having breakfast, then figuring out what on earth happened.
Trying to cling to normalcy.
He even feels relieved. He always locks his door at night, thinks it's preventing them from seeing him now.
It's a very human reaction, isn't it? Trying to find comfort in routine when everything's chaotic.
He tries again with all his might to get out of bed.
Usually you just throw off the covers, right? Cup yourself up a bit.
Not now. His body is so wide, so unwieldy. He tries to use his arms and hands, but they're just these dozens of little legs he can't control.
Just imagining the struggle. It emphasizes the total loss of his old abilities. He's trapped in this alien body.
He finally manages to get about half his body out of bed, but he's never even seen this lower part of himself clearly before.
Helpless slow going.
Incredibly slow and awkward. Then, in a panic, he shoves himself forward and hits the bedpost hard.
Ouch.
Yeah, he realizes this new lower body is super sensitive to pain.
So even moving is dangerous now. His body is a source of discomfort, even harm.
Right. Then he thinks, okay, maybe I should get my top half out first. He turns his head carefully, manages that. But then he realizes if he falls like that, head first, he could knock himself out. And he absolutely cannot risk losing consciousness right now.
Good point. Fear of injury on top of everything else. His own body is hostile territory.
So it takes just as much effort to get himself back onto his back again. He's stuck.
He must be getting desperate.
Totally. He keeps telling himself, I have to get out of bed, but also stay calm, don't panic. He looks out the window.
Seen anything.
Just morning fog, which offers zero comfort or clarity. Kind of mirrors his own confusion, you know?
Yeah, the fog is like a visual metaphor for his internal state confusion, no clear path forward, isolation.
He checks the time in his head again, 7 o'clock, still foggy. He sets a new deadline. Gotta be out of bed by 7:15.
Quite an urgency.
He figures someone from work will come check on him soon anyway, since he missed his train.
The job pressure again.
So, in a burst of determination, he tries to swing his entire body out at once, hopes he'll land safely on his back.
Does it work?
Well, as he's halfway out, he has this fleeting thought. Wouldn't it be simple if someone could just help me, like his father and the maid? But then he remembers all the doors are locked, and he can't really ask for help anyway. He almost smiles, ironically, at the thought.
That's quite poignant. Hope, then the reality of his isolation hitting him again. Simple help, totally unattainable.
It's 7:10 now. He knows he has to act. And just then, the doorbell rings. Loudly.
Oh, no.
That must be someone from work, he thinks. Panic. He freezes, halfway out of bed.
Who is it?
It is indeed someone from work. It's the chief clerk. His boss.
Wow. Okay, the stakes just got way higher. This isn't just personal anymore. His job, his family's money, it's all on the line.
Gregor's thinking, why am I the one who's immediately suspected if I'm slightly late? He feels really unfairly treated.
Yeah, you can see why he'd feel singled out.
So, driven by this frustration and anxiety, he finally throws himself completely out of bed, lands with a loud
A
thump.
big noise.
Surprisingly, not as loud as he feared. Probably the carpet helped.
Okay, so he's out of bed, but still a giant insect on the floor.
Exactly. Something has fallen down in there, says the cheese clerk from outside.
Yeah?
Impatient.
And the family.
His sister whispers urgently that the clerk is here. His father calls out, "Why'd you miss the train? Open the door, we'll explain the mess later." They're trying to manage it.
Trying to keep up appearances, protect Gregor, even though they don't know the half of it.
Then the chief clerk calls out formally, "Good morning, Mr. Samsa."
And the mother tries to smooth things over.
Yep. She jumps in, says Gregor isn't feeling well, but she emphasizes how dedicated he is, how he stays in reading or doing woodwork, trying to paint him as reliable.
A mother protecting her son's reputation. Natural reaction.
Gregor tries desperately to reply, squeaking out that you'll be there in a moment, but he can't move properly.
And the clerk.
He says he hopes it's not serious, but stresses, business comes first. Got to overcome illness for work.
Oof. No sympathy there.
The father asks impatiently if the clerk can come inside. Gregor instinctively squeaks no.
Which probably doesn't help.
No. Painful silence. His sister starts crying softly. They know something's really wrong.
The tension must be unbearable. Total breakdown of communication.
The chief clerk raises his voice now. Sounds annoyed. Accuses Gregor of barricading himself in, giving weird answers, worrying everyone, failing his duties.
He's really laying into him.
He even mentions some missing money Gregor was entrusted with. Says he initially vouched for Gregor, but now withdraws his support because of this stubbornness.
Wow, so there were maybe already issues at work? Or is the clerk just escalating?
Hard to say for sure, but he pointedly mentions Gregor's recent unsatisfactory sales figures too.
Okay, so things weren't perfect even before this. More pressure on Gregor.
Driven by sheer desperation, Gregor calls out again, trying to explain. I'm unwell, dizzy, still in bed but trying to get up.
Still using that squeaky voice, though.
Yeah. He pleads for patience, promises he'll catch the 8 o'clock train, insists he felt fine last night. This is a total shock.
He's frantic, trying to convince the clerk, clinging to his old reality.
As he's speaking, hardly aware of his own words, he manages to push himself over to the chest of drawers. Tries to stand upright using it.
Just wants to open the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Face the clerk. He falls against a chair, grabs it with little legs, tries to calm down enough to hear what the clerk is saying.
And what is the clerk saying?
He asks Gregor's parents, did you understand a single word of that? Basically implies Gregor's mocking them.
Oh, that's harsh.
Gregor's mother cries out, he might be seriously ill, help him. His sister panics, calls for their mother.
And the clerk.
He declares, getting agitated, that was the voice of an animal.
Whoa! Dehumanizing him completely.
The father, alarmed, shouts for a locksmith. The mother and sister rush out to get help.
Total chaos. But what about Gregor?
Strangely, he's become calmer amidst the chaos. He realizes they can't understand his words anymore.
That must be terrifying.
But he thinks, maybe wrongly, that they understand something is wrong and are ready to help. It brings him a tiny bit of comfort.
Misplaced hope, maybe?
Probably. He uses the chair to push himself to the door, and then makes this desperate attempt to turn the key, using his mouth.
With his mouth? Oh, man.
It's incredibly hard, no teeth. But he grips it, turns it, some weird brown fluid oozes from his mouth. Listen, the clerk says, surprised. He's turning the key. Encouraged, Gregor bites down harder, ignoring the pain. The lock finally clicks back.
He did it. A small victory.
A very small, short-lived victory. Because he had to use his mouth, the door swings open way faster than he intended.
And
before he can position himself, he's fully visible in the doorway. Just there.
oh God, the reveal.
He slowly turns around, trying not to fall. Then he hears it. The chief clerk lets out this single, sharp gasp. Ooh! Like the wind's knocked out of him.
The reaction. That says it all, doesn't it? The sheer horror.
You see the cloak, hand pressed to his mouth. Disbelief, disgust, slowly backing away.
And the family.
His mother, hair messy from sleep, looks from the clerk to the father. Then her eyes land on Gregor, and she just collapses. Faints dead away.
Oh, the poor woman.
His father looks absolutely furious, clenches his fists, then suddenly covers his eyes and just starts weeping uncontrollably.
Shock, hostility, grief just shattered their world.
Gregor doesn't dare go fully into the room. He leans against the other door frame, so he's only partly visible.
What does he see?
Daylight's brighter now. He can see the hospital across the street. The breakfast dish is still on the table. And on the wall,
Yeah.
a photo of himself from when he was a lieutenant in the army. A stark reminder of his old life.
Wow. That contrast. His lost identity right there.
The front door of the apartment is still wide open. Now then, Gregor says, trying to sound calm, reasonable, despite the squeak.
What's he trying to achieve?
I'll get dressed, pack my things, go to work, just let me leave. He tries to reassure the clerk. He's not stubborn. He likes his job. The family needs the money.
Still focused on work, even now. Deep denial.
He pleads for understanding, asks the clerk not to take sides against him, mentions the prejudice against salesmen.
Applying human logic to an impossible situation. It's heartbreaking, really.
But the chief clerk, He completely ignores Gregor, turns away, disgusted, stares at the open front door.
He's leaving.
He starts moving towards it, slowly at first, like he's under orders not to rush. But once he hits the hallway, he bolts, runs down the stairs, and vanishes.
Total rejection. The outside world wants nothing to do with him in this state.
Gregor immediately realizes, I can't let him leave like that. My job, the family. He knows his parents don't get the urgency. They always thought his job was secure.
His mind is racing about the future.
Needs to calm the clerk down, win him over. If only my sister were here, he thinks, knowing she's sensitive. But she's not. He feels he has to fix this himself.
That sense of responsibility is so ingrained, isn't it? Still trying to be the provider, even now.
Forgetting his limitations in panic, he pushes himself awkwardly through the doorway, trying to reach the clerk on the landing.
Does he make it?
He falls, cries out, lands on his little legs, but then, surprisingly, he feels okay. The legs seem to work.
Hope.
Yeah, he briefly thinks, maybe my troubles are over. He sways there, crouched low. A totally misplaced hope, sadly.
Why misplaced?
Because his mother, just regaining consciousness, sees him on the landing, lets out a piercing scream, recoils in terror.
Oh no!
Stumbles back, knocks over the coffee pot. Mother, mother, Gregor squeaks gently, worried, forgetting the clerk for a second.
Does that calm her?
No way. The spilled coffee just triggers more screaming. She flees to his father for protection.
So even gentle reassurance is seen as monstrous now. The disruption is total.
Gregor, still thinking about the clerk, tries to follow him down the stairs, sees him leap down several steps and disappear.
He's gone.
And Gregor's father, completely beside himself. Worry, anger, he grabs the clerk's dropped walking stick and a newspaper.
What's he doing?
He starts aggressively driving Gregor back towards his room, stamping his foot, hissing.
Oh, that's terrifying. Violence now.
Gregor's desperate squeaks are totally ignored. His mother, trembling, opens a window in the living room, despite the cold air.
Why open the window? Fresh air? Or indifference?
Maybe both. It hints at this growing indifference, maybe.
And Gregor.
He's forcefully shoved back into his bedroom. The door slams shut. Thud. The key turns. Locked in.
And then...
Sudden, heavy silence.
Wow. Brutal confinement. Complete isolation, physically and emotionally. That silence must be deafening.
Later that evening, Gregor wakes up. Deep, troubled sleep. His left side feels numb, like a scar. His leg was injured in the chaos.
Poor thing.
But then he smells food. Sweetened milk with bread pieces floating in it. Left under the door by his sister, Greet.
Ah, an act of care. A glimmer of hope.
He feels a surge of pleasure, yeah. But when he tries to drink it, his tastes have changed. It doesn't taste good anymore.
Oh, even his basic desires are different. Another layer of alienation.
Through the crack in the door, he can see his family sitting quietly in the living room. He feels this echo of pride, remembering when he provided for them.
But that's gone now.
Yeah, it's quickly overshadowed by worry that this quiet won't last. He starts crawling around his dark room, exploring.
Getting used to the new body, maybe.
Over the long, quiet evening, the door cracks open slightly a couple of times, then shuts quickly.
Someone checking on him.
Probably Greet. Needed to come in, but changed her mind. Fear. Revulsion. He waits by the door, hoping, but no one comes in.
That hesitation says a lot. Obligation versus fear. The locked door is now an invisible barrier.
Late that night, the gas light in the living room goes out. Apartment goes dark. He hears them tiptoeing to their rooms.
Alone again?
Knows no one will come back till morning. He feels uneasy in the tall, empty room, crawls under the sofa. For comfort, security.
Seeking refuge. The darkness, the emptiness reflects his isolation.
He spends the night there, drifting in and out of sleep, hungry, still worrying about them, their future.
Even now.
Yeah. He decides he has to be patient, considerate, so they can bear the unpleasantness he's caused. He takes the blame.
That's incredibly selfless. The provider becomes the burden, but still worries about them.
Next morning, Greet, his sister, mostly dressed, opens the door quietly, peers in anxiously.
Does she see him?
Not at first. He's under the couch. When she finally spots him, she's so startled she slams the door shut again.
That visceral reaction. Still hard for them to adjust.
But then, almost immediately, she seems to regret it, comes back, opens the door, more slowly, cautiously.
Okay, so there's still some compassion there, a conflict within her.
Gregor watches her from under the couch. He wonders if she noticed he didn't touch the milk. Hope she'll bring something else, something he might actually like now.
But he doesn't ask?
No, his pride stops him. She notices the untouched milk, picks it up carefully. using a rag.
A rag. To avoid touching it. Oof, that's significant. Emotional distance growing.
She comes back a bit later, not with fresh food.
What then?
A whole selection of old, rotten vegetables, bones with dried sauce, old raisins, almonds, cheese he once said was inedible, a dry roll, stale buttered bread.
Garbage, basically.
Pretty much. And a dish of water. Then she leaves quickly, locks the door.
What's her thinking? Is this what she thinks insects eat?
Maybe a misguided attempt to cater to his new nature. Gregor's legs start whirring with excitement, though. Finally, something edible.
He likes the rotten food.
Yeah, he greedily eats the decaying cheese, the rotten veg, the sauce, finds them surprisingly good, but hates the fresh bread and butter.
Wow. A disturbing symbol of his own decay, his alienation from freshness, from life.
He drags the food he wants away from the rest, bothered by the smell of the good stuff. Later, when Greet unlocks the door briefly so he can hide, he scurries back under the sofa.
She comes in to clean.
Yeah, she sweeps up the leftovers, mixes them all together carelessly, takes the mess out. This becomes their new, unsettling routine.
Perfunctory, lacking care, a routine of detachment.
Day after day, she brings food early morning, midday when the parents are asleep. They avoid seeing him eat.
Why?
The sight of him eating this animalistic activity is just too distressing for them. They prefer emotional distance.
Reinforcing his isolation, complete breakdown of the family bond.
Gregor has no idea what they told the doctor or the locksmith that first morning. They assume he can't understand them, so they rarely speak to him.
Just overhears things.
Mostly Greet's weary sighs from the other side of the door. Later, as she gets slightly more used to him, she might make brief, impersonal comments about his eating. No warmth.
He's cut off from information, too. Helpless, alienated.
He strains to listen to muffled sounds from the living room, presses himself against the door trying to understand.
What are they talking about?
Mostly him, especially at first. What to do, how to cope. Their future, now he can't work.
The financial worry must be huge.
Definitely. And the old maid. She leaves almost immediately, tearfully thanks the mother for letting her go. Can't cope with the situation.
Illustrates the fear and revulsion extending beyond the family. They're truly alone with this.
So Greet, the sister, takes on cooking and chores, though nobody seems to have much appetite anymore. They urge each other to eat, but fail. Drink less, too.
The whole household is suffering.
The father explains their finances one evening. There's still some money left from his old business and from Gregor's past earnings. Gregor overhears.
Feels a bit of relief, like he still contributed.
A flicker, maybe. But it quickly becomes clear it's not enough. Not nearly enough long term.
So reality bites.
The reality is they all need to work. The father's old and frail. The mother has asthma. Greet's only 17. No experience.
That's a bleak outlook.
Gregor overhears these worried talks and feels deep shame, regret. He's become this huge burden. It weighs on him constantly.
That internal conflict again. His sense of responsibility versus the reality of what he is now.
As time passes, his habits change in the room. He discovers he enjoys crawling on the walls, even on the ceiling.
Seriously, like an insect.
Exactly. Greed sees this and decides they should remove the furniture, give him more space to crawl.
Makes sense, in a grim way. What about the mother?
She's strongly against it. Removing his furniture as human things, that feels like giving up hope he might change back.
A conflict. Hope versus acceptance of the monstrous reality.
They argue about it. Then one day, the mother, maybe trying to help or just unable to bear it, enters the room while he's crawling on the wall.
Oh no, how does she react?
The shock is too much. She faints.
Oh.
Greek rushes in, tries smelling salts. In the commotion, a bottle breaks, a glass shard hits Gregor, injures him slightly.
Another injury. And more guilt for him, presumably. He caused his mother to faint.
Exactly. He feels even more shut off from her now, alienated further.
This is just relentless decline.
Sometime later, the father comes home from his new job at a bank.
He got a job.
Had to. He's wearing a bank uniform now. Looks different, more authoritative somehow.
And his attitude to Gregor.
Changed too. More aggressive, hostile. One evening, in a fit of rage, he starts throwing apples at Gregor.
Throwing apples?
Yes, one hits him hard, lodges in his back. Gregor cries out. The mother and sister plead with the father to stop.
That's brutal. The uniform symbolizing his reasserted authority, the apple signifying pure hostility. Breakdown complete.
And that apple, it stays there, embedded in his flesh, a constant painful reminder.
My goodness, a physical symbol of the injury and hostility.
Outwardly, the family shows a kind of strained patience now, maybe because of the visible wound. But Gregor's mobility declines rapidly. He's slow, weak, like an invalid.
Powerless, detached.
He spends evenings just lying in his dark room, listening to muffled sounds from the living room, watching glimpses of their lives, a passive observer in his own home.
What are their evenings like?
Quiet.
Yes, Sandra.
Father sleeps in his uniform in the armchair, exhausted. Mother sews. Greet studies, trying to get a better job, help financially.
Everyone trying to cope, adapt, but Gregor's importance fades.
Yeah. Greet neglects his room more, gets dirtier, more cluttered. They hire an elderly charwoman for heavy cleaning.
Does she interact with Gregor?
She occasionally looks in, calls him names like old dung beetle, but sort of casually, without real malice, just dehumanizing him.
Part of the background horror now.
To make more money, they rent out a spare room to 3 bearded gentlemen.
Lodgers in that apartment.
Yep. And these guys are super particular about cleanliness and order.
Oh, the irony.
Exactly. Which means more unwanted stuff from the rest of the apartment gets shoved into Gregor's room, making it even more cramped and horrible.
His space shrinks further. No consideration for him at all.
One evening, Gregor's lying there, feeling isolated. He hears Greet playing her violin in the living room.
Oh, music. Does it affect him?
Deeply. It stirs something in him, longing for connection, for happier times. He slowly, painfully crawls to the doorway, wants to be closer.
Do they notice him?
No.
No.
The family, the lodgers, they seem unimpressed by the music anyway. He's completely disconnected from even these simple moments.
That fleeting beauty, but he can't bridge the gap. Total alienation.
Then disaster. One of the lodgers spots Gregor in the doorway.
Uh-oh. How do they react?
Immediate anger, disgust. They declare they're leaving at once, refuse to pay rent, threaten legal action over the living conditions.
Oh, wow. That's devastating for the family's finances.
Throws him into complete despair. The final straw, really. The social stigma, the impossibility of normalcy while he exists.
And this pushes someone over the edge.
Greed. She's borne so much of the burden, she finally breaks, declares with chilling finality, we have to get rid of it.
Yes.
She says the creature in the room isn't Gregor anymore. It's not her brother.
The ultimate rejection, severing the bond completely. He's just a monstrous burden to be eliminated.
Gregor hears this, feels this profound sadness, resignation, painfully, difficulty. He drags himself back towards his dark room.
His final retreat.
Greet sees him go, quickly steps forward, locks the door behind him, and says just one word, but it's chilling. At last.
Relief. They want him gone. His final exclusion.
Lying in the darkness, Gregor realizes he can't move anymore. The pain starts to fade, replaced by peace, quiet.
His final moments.
Yeah. His thoughts turn to his family. He feels tenderness, love for them, strangely. He dies quietly. Early morning, the clock strikes 3.
A release for him, maybe, from suffering, isolation, and his final thoughts are of love, acceptance.
It seems that way. The next morning, the charwoman finds his body, lifeless.
How does she announce it?
Matter-of-factly, bluntly. Tells the parents and sister. Their first reaction is shock. Then, relief. Palpable relief.
What does the father say?
Let's give thanks to God for that.
Wow. Harsh, but maybe understandable given the burden.
Greet looks at his body, just remarks how thin he'd become.
Their thoughts immediately turn to their own future, don't they?
Completely. They decide to take a day off work. A luxury. Write apology letters to the lodgers they scared off.
And then?
They decide to go for a tram ride. Out into the countryside, get away, seek renewal.
A fresh start?
A newfound optimism emerges. They talk about their jobs, plan to move to a smaller, more practical apartment, putting the nightmare behind them, rebuilding.
Focusing on their own survival now.
As the tram rides on, the parents look at Greet. They realize she's blossomed. Beautiful, capable young woman.
And they think.
An unspoken agreement passes between them. Soon, it'll be time to find a good husband for her. Secure her future.
So the focus shifts entirely to Greet's future, her transformation.
Right. As they reach their destination, Greet stretches her young body. A picture of renewed life, hope.
A cyclical thing. Renewal after tragedy, but at Gregor's expense.
So, that's the story. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Kafka's Metamorphosis.
We covered a lot. Gregor's transformation, his isolation, the family struggles, his death, and their reaction.
Relief and hope for the future. It really is a story that leaves you with so much to think about.
Definitely stays with you.
Absolutely. And for you, our listeners, especially those learning English, there's some powerful ideas here, aren't there?
For sure.
Like how the story shows the huge difficulty of dealing with massive, unexpected changes in life.
Yeah, how adaptable or unadaptable we can be.
And what it says about family relationships under extreme pressure, how they can change or break.
The dynamics shift so dramatically.
And in this really strange, thought-provoking way, it makes us ask, what does it actually mean to be human? When communication breaks down, when the physical form changes so drastically.
Deep questions, timeless themes that still resonate today.
They really do. Well, thank you so much for listening to this deep dive.
We hope you found it interesting and maybe helpful for your English too.
And we wish you all good health.